Welcome back to World's News, where we present you the most important and funniest news from the past week. This week's topics are an update on the Russo-Ukrainian war, that the DNA code was cracked, and an update on the meteorological dangers threatening our planet. We hope you'll enjoy this week's news, so let's get the first topic started. The Russo-Ukrainian war, an update. Yes, it's that time of the video again. The Russo-Ukrainian war has reached day 88, but there's still no end in sight. But it seems like the Russian media finally started dropping some facts. In Russia's top talk show on TV, military analyst and retired Colonel Mikhail Kodarenok told anchor Olga Skabayeva some true facts about this war and wasn't stopped by the government. Among other things, he said,
Ситуация с общестратегических позиций состоит в том, что вооруженные силы Украины могут подставить под ружье 1 миллион человек. И они об этом сами говорят, что для нас никакой сложности в том, что мобилизовать 1 миллион человек нет. Так что вот миллион вооруженных украинских солдат, вот это надо воспринимать как реальность ближайшего времени. И это нам надо учитывать в своих оперативно-стратегических расчетах, что ситуация в этом плане для нас будет откровенно ухудшаться. Если ты выходишь за эти рамки, то действительность история тебя рано или поздно так набьет по носу, что мало не покажет. Все-таки самое главное недостаток нашего военно-политического положения в том, что мы в полном геополитическом одиночестве. И практически против нас, как бы нам это не хотелось признавать, весь мир.
And it's nothing new that some Russian people think like that, but it's entirely new that a person actually is allowed to say things like this on Russian national TV. What consequences this will have on him, the Russian people, and Russia's military strategy can't be said yet. But one thing's for sure, this will have consequences. And we were right. Just 2 days after this, he had another appearance in the same talk show, talking about Russian military supremacy and the Russian victory. So I think it's clear that these aren't his own thoughts. But here you get a sense of how much pressure the Russian government puts on people that criticize its actions. Apart from that, a captured Russian soldier appeared in court for the first trial Ukraine has conducted for an act that could be considered a war crime. Sergeant Vadim Shishimarin pled guilty to shooting a 62-year-old Ukrainian man. That guilty plea carries a life sentence, so this young man will probably spend the rest of his life in prison. Now, this was the first step of hundreds that are still to be taken, because lots of Russian soldiers surrendered themselves or were arrested by Ukrainian forces. Another thing which is quite awesome is that Edinburgh named one of their streets after the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. So the Ukrainian consulate in Edinburgh is now located near the official Volodymyr Zelensky street. I mean, of course the Ukrainian president would have liked the tank more, but it's still pretty cool, right? And there are even more good news. The Institute for the Study of War reported that Russia has likely run out of combat-ready reservists, forcing it to integrate forces from private military companies and militias with its regular army. So they are starting to get more and more desperate. But unfortunately, there aren't only good news. Now, the entirety of Ukrainian defendants in the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol has surrendered themselves. That means that this stronghold has fallen. But they fought for a long time and detained lots of Russian forces and heavy arms such as tanks around Mariupol, therefore protecting the rest of Ukraine. And it still looks like Russia won't gain much territory in this war. The DNA code was cracked. You might remember this topic from school, or you're still in school and even know some things about it. But what I'm gonna tell you now is of great importance for modern science and medicine. So DNA is an interesting thing. It's short for deoxyribonucleic acid and it's only built of 4 nitrogen-containing nucleobases called cytosine, guanine, adenine and thymine, and of course lots of other things like nitrogen, carbon, oxygen and many more. But these 4 parts are the things that truly make us individuals. You can imagine it like this. There's our framework consisting of all these other parts, as you can see here, called phosphate backbone. It's just the same over and over again. But what comes to mind when thinking about DNA is its characteristic helix structure, right? The nice curl that everybody knows. Well, this actually happens because these frameworks are connected by our nucleobases, and the order of these rules everything in our body. From the color of your eyes over the plans on how to build all your organs to your IQ and everything else. And here's a little fun fact. All this information on how to build this entire human that is you can be found in each and every cell of your body. So yes, if science was advanced enough, you could be cloned by only using a hair of yours. Anyways, to have, let's say, some fun with human genomes, you'd have to decode our nucleobases and finally complete the human genome, which by the way is the entirety of all of our chromosomes, to build them yourself. And that's the cracking point. Decoding the human genome has been a major task for scientists for the past decades, until now. A group of scientists announced that they finally fully completed the human genome. Rajiv McCoy is a human geneticist at Johns Hopkins University who was part of the team known as Telomere to Telomere or T2T Consortium, assembling the complete genome. He said, quote, "Some of the regions that were missing actually turn out to be the most interesting." And goes on, telomeres are repetitive stretches of DNA found at the ends of chromosomes. Like eglets on shoelaces, they may help keep chromosomes from unraveling. So in theory, we now have the blueprints for humans, but as you can probably imagine, it's way more complicated than this. But if you're like me and from time to time you're wondering what all the scientists do all day, here's an answer. And personally, I think it's crazy how far modern medicine and science have come. And it's even crazier if you then imagine what could happen within the next decades. But one thing's for sure, you'll hear about the most revolutionizing things here on World News. An update on the meteorological dangers threatening our planet. You all probably know the meteorological dangers that are threatening to extinct humanity from this planet, right? We've got global warming, melting poles and therefore rising sea levels. But not only that, the temperature and acidic levels of our oceans are constantly rising as well. The World Meteorological Organization or WMO stated on Wednesday that in 2021 the world's oceans grew to their warmest and most acidic levels on record, while melting ice sheets helped push sea levels to new heights. This statement also was a call to actions from United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres. Now, that's just my opinion, but for me personally, the term climate change has been on the news so much that it has lost some of its meaning. But once you read one article about it, you'll realize how bad our climate situation is. I mean, we've talked about flooding in Australia multiple times, and we all saw the huge wildfires in different places in the world. And we also saw all the unusual meteorological phenomenons in the past. So we have to remind ourselves that these things will get much worse if we go on like we currently are. Now, with the Russia-Ukrainian war being partially financed by selling gas and oil, the need to focus on alternative energy sources is bigger than ever. Because, as we said multiple times in the past, if everybody just stopped buying Russian gas and oil, the war would probably end within weeks. And yes, restructuring a country's entire energy system is an unimaginably hard task, but we should take this as a reminder to keep changing things until this war ends and the next generations can live on Earth as easily as we do right now. So if you want to contribute your part to saving our planet, here's a website that helps you getting started. Imagine if a few million or even a billion people did this, then these things probably wouldn't have gotten this bad. So we need to act now. These were the most important and funniest news from the past week. If you've got any suggestions on topics that we missed out on, feel free to let us know in the comments. And once you're done there, please consider liking and subscribing, since that helps us out more than you can imagine. But now to this week's bonus fact. Today I've told you that the Russian soldier got a life sentence, so he will probably spend the rest of his life in prison. But life sentences aren't always for the whole life. Austria and Germany, for example, have some of the lowest life sentences in the world, with a maximum of 15 years jail time without parole. In these cases, parole is delayed for a non-specific period beyond 15 years.